Lord's Day 36 and Lord's Day 37 go together in that they both deal with the third commandment. This is sort of unusual in the way the Catechism deals with things, but I think it's appropriate for us to take them individually as the Lord's Days are each kind of separate items. So here we will read Lord's Day 37. Question and answer 101. But may we swear an oath in God's name if we do it reverently? Answer, yes, when the government demands it or when necessity requires it in order to maintain and promote truth and trustworthiness for God's glory and our neighbor's good. Such oaths are approved in God's word and were rightly used by Old and New Testament believers. Question and answer 102. May we swear by saints or other creatures? Answer, no. A legitimate oath means calling upon God as the one who knows my heart to witness to my truthfulness and to punish me if I swear falsely. No creature is worthy of such honor. The Reformers thought that the third commandment was so important that they devoted 2 separate Sundays to its treatment. Some of this is strictly an historical accident. The permissibility of swearing an oath in court was a big debate at the time in the places where the Reformation was influential, and so naturally it got specific treatment in the Heidelberg Catechism. Now, there are still groups today that feel that Christian participation in government or in the military or even voting means compromising our witness and our allegiance. But the issue is not as big in the church as a whole. Were we to write a similar document today, we might not give this the same treatment. But I don't know that it's so bad that we deal with the issue of God's name a second time. As the Christianity of the culture around us becomes more and more superficial, it's important for us to know how to speak of God in a positive way that doesn't lift up his name for nothing, as we translated the third commandment last time we talked. It's fairly common for politicians to throw the name of God into their speeches and use him in defense of their policies. Unfortunately, this use of God's name often says nothing about the individual's relationship with God. The goal is to use God for political advantage, which is a violation of the third commandment. What's even more unfortunate, though, is that Christians sometimes fall into the same trap with good intentions of using God for their advantage to advance their policies, whether political or otherwise. Lord's Day 37 describes a positive way God's name may be used by his people in the wider culture, in order to promote truth and trustworthiness for God's glory and our neighbor's good. The specific example given is the respectful swearing of oaths in court, when taking public office or some similar situation when it is helpful to call attention that we stand before a higher authority who verifies the truth of our word. Ideally, the words of any Christ follower should be so trustworthy that outside confirmation is unnecessary. Jesus himself, the scriptures record, though, took an oath in Matthew 26. We recognize that we live in a culture that is reckless with its words. The teaching on oaths reminds us that sometimes we do have to make accommodations when we interact with our wider culture in order to regain God's view of trustworthiness of our words. We'll talk more in the coming weeks about some of the specific principles that guide our participation in the wider society.